Hello and welcome, my lovely people. I think this is going to be more like a voice note because I really don't even know what I am going to talk about. It's been some time now since my last podcast, and usually between the podcast, I would gather some information or downloads from the experiences that I have from my observations. The one main observation is that I was healing my physical body. I've somehow I just went through a lot of physical ailments for the last couple of weeks, couple of months, I guess. Almost since January, I just have been down with a cold that was just ongoing. And I guess being in the cold and having some physical ailment, so feeling weak, not being able to do things that you usually do, so like running and just feeling tired, takes toll on your psychological body or spiritual body as well. So it just triggers you and it just brings up things to the surface that when you are just your healthy self, they don't come up because you're busy doing things. And I guess being busy doing things covers the spiritual things, covers the surface. The biggest thing also in that is sleeping. Having enough sleep and sleeping throughout the night makes a day totally different, and sleeping less, not sleeping enough hours, makes the next day different. And I'm sure you know that. And it's almost as if if you don't sleep enough, it's almost as you are operating from this dream-like state, but that's not a natural state. So you are almost not fully aware what's happening around you. And I've experienced it a lot, and it's quite tiring, and it's something that is not easy. And it definitely comes up with for me, it's definitely coming up with the cold, and also with some hormonal imbalances that I have. I have been going through therapy as well, quite intensive, I guess, and I have managed to find quite a good therapist, or someone that is making me happy, I guess. And and it's someone that I wanted, so it's a male. I wanted to have some male energy in my life because I feel I don't have enough of that. I wanted to have a male to talk to. I have I just have friends or girlfriends that I can talk to. One of them is a psychologist, so I have quite a good talking network, and I know I can call them, and I always or usually have quite a deep conversations about myself, about my experience. So I feel like I am covered in that, and this female energy, and also some colleagues or even people at work, they are mainly women. I don't, and obviously I have a daughter, so I don't really have that much male energy. So having this male therapist, I just felt intuitively that it was something that I wanted. And obviously this relationship is not forever, so I don't feel like I have to sustain it. It's there for some time, for a period of time, and then it's going to come to natural end. And one of the most profound experiences I had during this therapy was healing rescuing my inner child. And what I'm gonna say now, it's quite personal, so I feel like I'm sharing this with quite and I'm being quite vulnerable, and I am just finding it not hard, but I don't know if I'm super comfortable, and I know why. I think it's because if anyone who I know and I wouldn't necessarily like to listen to this podcast, I wouldn't maybe want them to know those details about myself. And it's funny because I am ready to share it with people that I don't know, and in the same time, it's harder for me to share it with people that I, for example, knew, and maybe we like didn't part ways in the right time, in the right way, or. But anyway, this is what I am doing. So I'm sharing my experiences. So during the therapy, I was working on the inner child, and usually how it works is that the therapist is working on with his experience and with his own intuition. So we start talking, and he just finds the thread in what I am talking about. He just finds this thread, this one thread that he feels is important and that he feels is worth exploring more, and he pulls the thread. And in the conversation, I was talking about my dreams, and that I dream about my past when I used to live in this block of flats. And the block of flats, it was just this very long, I think I talked about it in one of my podcasts. It was just this very long block of flats that you could find in communist Eastern Europe. It was quite scary. That's how I remember it, and remember, this is my reality. Just to kind of go a little bit into a tangent with that. For example, for my mom or for my parents, that was the flat that they got, I guess, from the government back when there was a real scarcity of flats. So that was their dream first home that they had when they were really young. So their reality was that they really loved that place, and it was totally not my reality. I believe that I came there. Obviously, I've chosen my parents and I've chosen this reality, but I came there maybe with not having that much of a break between the past life where I was quite comfortable, maybe, or just not feeling that place at all, just feeling totally out of place, feeling totally scared. Basically, how I remember it is very black and white. I'm also looking at my black and white photograph from that period. Maybe it's because all the photographs that I have from that period when I was young, and there's quite a lot of those photographs because my dad was a keen photographer, and these are beautiful photographs. But back then there was no color photography as such. I mean, there was, but I guess it was just more expensive to develop, and I remember he developed all the photos at home. So he had the development studio set up in our bathroom, and he would develop the photos in A4 format, and that's what I'm looking at now. This little me, just crouching on the beach, and that's why the memories come in black and white. So coming back to my session, I was taken back to the time when I was little, and I must have been maybe 4 or 5, maybe 7, and I was in this block of flat, and he was asking questions like, and he basically told me to go there and to meet this little me, how I am now. So my current self is meeting my younger self, going there and asking my younger self what I would like. And I am saying then, I would like a hug, I would like a kiss, I would like to be embraced, I just need some physical touch, and I am all giving it to my younger self. And then again, what I would like, and then, or is there something I could do for you? And then my younger self just says, take me out of here. And I say, yes, of course, I'll take you, I'll rescue you, where do you want to go? And my younger self says, just anywhere with you. And then obviously my therapist, he was guiding me through this, but the answers from my younger self, they came naturally. It wasn't anything forced, it wasn't anything that I had to think about. It was, obviously I do have wild imagination, but it wasn't about imagining this. It was, and obviously by this point I was crying so hard, the tears and the snot was coming out of my eyes, of my nose. And I was also very fragile because I was in the midst of the cold. So the kind of the surface that is the hard surface that surrounds you when you are in your normal healthy self, the kind of support, when you are sick, when you have a cold, it wears very thinly. So you're becoming very sensitive, or more sensitive than you usually are. That's what happens with me. I don't know how it happens with you, but I'm sure you understand. You yourself become more childlike because you have to be taken care of, because you cannot take care of yourself. You're too weak. Your physical body cannot take care of itself as much, or is suffering, or is in pain. So all of those things kind of rub off your protective layer, as you wish. And therefore you're becoming more sensitive, so maybe you are more prone to cry. And obviously that was a very emotional experience, and that was something that was just digging very deeply in me. So I asked this little me, how would you like to go there? And the little me, the child me said, oh, we're just gonna fly. So yes, we just I guess we just hold hands, and then we just flew out of the balcony, whatever it was, and I just took this little me with me where I am now. So I am, since then, and that was a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, since then I am parenting this little me, and I feel the presence of this little me, this little Hania. That's how my name is pronounced. For a young version, you can say that, Hania. So this little Hania is with me, and I'm taking care of this little Hania, and I definitely feel safer, and I feel like also the reality kind of split. I was just watching these reels that I've watched before, reels like this about different realities existing in the same time, and the future influencing the current reality. And I also feel like the past is also running simultaneously, as if we had all the programs available and we watched the program that we pressed, that we want to watch, but it does not mean that the other programs are not existing. So we are focusing a lot on the future, especially when manifesting, when affirming, when wishing for. But I feel that as important as being in the present and affirming being in the future is kind of also taking care of the past. And again, that's a very, very wild field of living in the past, being hung up on the past, and that's what's not what is not allowing you to kind of be in the present and manifest the future. So having, and Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot as well, kind of fixing the past, meaning that what I just did, going there, which was quite a, not physical, but it was the experience as if it was happening. And very strangely, it changed things for me. I can feel that I am kind of thinking differently, and those changes are never, this is what's happening and during the 50 minutes of therapy session, and that's it, and then I go on and kind of go back to my life. The changes, if you are aware enough, the changes just keep happening after, and then you start thinking differently, feeling differently about the past. And because you start feeling differently about the past, you start feeling differently in the current, in the presence. So this is how this is overlapping. If you are living in a certain picture of the past, and the picture of the past is very fixed, and this is your opinion, this is what happened, and you are not trying to think about it differently, nothing is gonna change, unless obviously you fixed it and you kind of closed it behind the door and you're never going back to it. But that's not entirely true. I know a lot of people think like that and say what happens in the past stays in the past. Yes, that's correct. But if that's not worked on, if that's not fully accepted, if that's just being pushed and kind of closed behind the iron door and put the locker on it, and I'm never gonna look there into that, then it does not mean that it's never gonna come up. Because like I said, when you go into a lesser physical strength, when something happens and those doors become weaker, the same as your body become weaker, when some difficult event happens in your life, this might become weaker, those doors might become weaker. And I'm also not suggesting you go there just by yourself and deal with this past or whatever event, because we need support with that, and we need to have good tools, and we need to be able to help ourselves. And sometimes just by ourselves is not possible to do that. But each and every one of that, and I know this for a fact, has got those events, and a lot of people just lock them up, and they live happily sometimes with those events just locked up and never looked at. However, in the stressful work environment, in the stressful family environment, when things are happening around them, if those things are not looked at, and if we are not aware of them, and if we just barricaded ourselves from those things, they will appear. So I do urge you, when you are ready, I'm not saying that you have to do it now, and if you're really, really happy with that, because leaving like with this kind of barricaded away, it does take courage, and you kind of have to be mentally ready for this, to go and deal with those stuff. And like I know from my therapies, the trauma could be something, the trauma has no kind of grading. As hard as it's to believe in that, trauma is different for everyone. It could be something, very horrific for someone, but for someone else it could be something that is horrific for them in their life and what they've experienced, and it kind of can have effect on their life in a whole, but in a comparison to someone else, in comparison to someone else's, it's not as big. Does this make this person's life better? by thinking, oh, they have it much worse. Well, in some point, yes, you can put yourself in this kind of gratitude, which is always good, which is always beneficial. However, it does not mean that you can kind of heal from whatever happened to you, even though it wasn't as, horrific what happened to this other person. So yes, being in gratitude and kind of being in this form of empathy and gratitude is good, but working on those things that are there from the past definitely changes the current and then changes the future as well. The one thing I really want to explore a little bit more, and hopefully when I research it a little bit more, and probably something that happens in my life brings me to talk about this, is how future influences the current state and even the past. That's super interesting. I will have to think about it a little bit more, but I'm just talking about this experience, and definitely then this experience with working with the child, and I guess is also inner child, the child that is in the past, the child, the young me, is still the inner child inside me that I've been carrying, but I've been carrying around me, within me, this kind of version that was, from what I remember, what I said then, that was that just resign, it was, the version was that just the resignation, was just sadness and resignation. That's what I remember when I was talking, how this little child of myself, the little me, was feeling back then, and was feeling, yes, sadness, resignation, and trapped, I think it was as well. So kind of lack of freedom, and also some type of kind of lack of physical touch and physical intimacy, and all those emotions were trapped in me, and I still am in it, to the point, because then it carried to the teenage years. I didn't work with a teenage Hannah yet. I mean, I did, but just not at the session. We started a little bit, and this goes into part of kind of sexual intimacy, and going more into what the adult person would do, but it would be still acting from the child, the inner child, this one that was sad, and that was filled with the resignation. What I mean is, by resignation, I mean accepting that the sad reality around you is just this reality, and that's what it is, and not seeing the way out of this at that moment, and making everything to make it better, but also knowing that it's not going to change a lot, and just trying to adjust, trying to adopt every day to that, and wanting to be happy but not succeeding, so kind of accepting this state. So yeah, so just very much overwhelming sadness, and obviously also looking for the affection from the parents, but not getting it in the physical form, because also I am very well aware that my parents did love me, and they showed me love in the way they know how to. So by providing me with food, with shelter, with clothing, with outing in the weekends, with kind of games and entertainments, with books. The one thing that I really wanted and I really needed was the spiritual recognition and physical touch and appreciation, and these parts were not filled. So I am and was operating from the sphere of lacking those. So yeah, so this is what was happening with me and to me for the last couple of weeks, and I hope it resonates with you, and I wish you all the best, and I speak to you very soon. Bye bye.